everyone, raise your hand if you are a kid watching this in the sanctuary. Now raise your hand if you are a kid watching this from home. Now everyone, grown-ups too, raise your hand and wave to the people around you. Hi everyone. So kids, we're gonna watch this video together. That means if you are in the sanctuary, you'll come up front to the TV. And if you are at home, you'll get as close to your screen as possible. But to get there, you can either walk on your tiptoes or crawl like a bear. You choose. Ready, steady, go. Woohoo! Our story today is about a brave, smart, and strong girl named Esther. Esther, I hardly know her. Raise your hand if you've ever heard the story about Esther before. Well, get ready because this story is amazing. But first, let's meet Esther. Hey everyone, I'm Esther. My Hebrew name is Hadassah, but most people just call me Esther. My family is from Israel, but a long time ago, like way before I was born, the Babylonians came and took our land and sent everyone in my Jewish community to lots of places far, far away. This made everyone feel sad and scared. Eventually, the Persians took over the Babylonians, and even though we could go back to our homes in Israel, my family chose to stay in Susa, the capital, because this is all we've ever known. I used to live with my uncle Mordecai, but then something crazy kind of happened. This creepy weirdo king of Persia thought I was super good looking and chose me to be his queen. Little did he know, I was actually really smart and brave and strong and Jewish, which was like, yikes, because at that time, this guy named Haman had a lot of power in the government and a lot of prejudice against me and all Jewish people. He didn't like us just because we were different. So he convinced the king to kill us all. Yeah! So obviously, I was terrified. But here's my story about how God helped me be brave to speak up and save my people. Our story today comes from Esther, chapter 7, verses 1 through 6. Once there was a young girl from Israel named Esther who was living in a land far away from her home. She was brave and kind and soon became queen of the Persian kingdom. One day, Queen Esther invited the king and his most important official, Haman, to a big fancy dinner. The king was so happy, he exclaimed, "Oh, Queen Esther, I will give you anything, even half my kingdom. So tell me, what do you want?" Queen Esther was feeling nervous and brave. She took a deep breath and said, "I want you to stop the plan to kill the Jewish people in your kingdom. You've been tricked into thinking they're your enemy, but they're not. They're my people, my friends and relatives. Please let them live." The king was surprised. "Who was it that tricked me?" Queen Esther pointed to Haman and said, "Haman was the one who tricked you. He's your real enemy, not my people." Haman was terrified. His mean lies were found out, and now he must face the consequences for deceiving the king. Wowee! What a crazy story. It ends up that Esther, along with her uncle Mordecai, save all the Jewish people from dying. And this moment is still celebrated today in the yearly Jewish holiday known as Purim. If you read the whole story of Queen Esther, you'll see that it's kind of like a sitcom, soap opera, and social commentary all rolled into one. It's funny, dramatic, and it makes you think. Because the way this story's written, it uses humor and irony to explore some pretty difficult topics, like people who have power and people who don't, the consequences of hurting people, prejudice and discrimination, and standing up to injustice. Did you notice any of these things in our story? You see, Haman had tricked the king into thinking that the Jewish people were his enemies just because they were different. And because Mordecai hurt Haman's feelings because he wouldn't bow down and worship him. Ugh. This is what we call discrimination. Can you say that with me? Discrimination. Discrimination is a fancy word for the unfair practice of treating a person or a group of people differently from others. So here's an all play. Have you ever noticed discrimination in our city, state, country, or world today? And how does it make you feel when people are treated unfairly? You can share your answers out loud, or you can type them in the chat. Have you ever noticed discrimination in our city, state, country, or world today? How does it make you feel when people are treated unfairly? Oh, yes. And that is why I love this story. Because Esther uses her voice and her power to speak up for her people. Sometimes our governments make rules that aren't fair to everyone. They might even use discrimination on purpose to protect their power and their wealth. But that doesn't mean that we can't do something about it. There are tons of stories in our Bible about ordinary people and kids speaking up against unfair rulers and laws that promote things that aren't a part of God's great big love, like discrimination, hate, violence, hogging all the food and money, or telling certain people that they don't belong just because they're different. You see, when we speak up against unfair rulers and laws, we can help God's great big love turn discrimination into fairness and equality, hate into love, violence into peace, hogging all the food and money into sharing with and loving our neighbors. And we can help turn telling people they don't belong just because they're different into welcoming and including everyone into God's great, big, inclusive, ever-expanding love. So, if you are a kid in the sanctuary, join us in the Wiggle Space after announcements. And we'll explore all of this more through creativity, questions, and play. And if you are a kid at home, you can color the coloring page or the Bible story booklet. Thanks for exploring this story with me today. And thanks for being you. See you next time.